Hey everyone, and welcome to Business Boot Camp. I'm Christy Wright, and today we are going to give you the practical steps you want and the tough love truth you need to succeed in your business. I'm so excited about today's episode because I recently sat down with my very good friend, Jasmine Star. Many of you know Jasmine. She is a podcast host. She is a world-class speaker. She's a thought leader. She is a social media expert. And I know she has helped many of you grow your businesses. She's a good friend of mine. And we sat down to talk about resilience and having thick skin and showing up despite the haters and the critics and complainers online. We talked about it all. She is a brilliant business mind, and she's also a really good friend. She's the kind of person that will tell you what you need to hear and also give you a hug and pump you up whenever you're feeling down. She has some brilliant business advice for you today, and I'm so excited for you to hear from her. Check out my conversation with Jasmine Star. Jasmine, hey, thanks for being here.
I'm so happy, Christy. I mean, I don't know if the world has prepared their hearts for the conversation we're about to have.
I don't know that I have, because I remember the last time you were on the Business Boutique podcast, and maybe the Christy Wright show after that. And I was ready to charge hell with a water pistol after talking to you on air. And so I don't know if I'm personally ready for this conversation, but I'm so excited. Okay. I was thinking about,
hold on. Are we going to point out like how your beautiful language? I was in charge hell with a water pistol. And I was like, what? I was like, they talk different out there. I love it. That's the vibe. That is going to be like, that is going to be the chapter of the podcast where we begin.
That's right.
Charging hell with a water pistol.
Welcome to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly right. Okay. So I was thinking about just memories I have with you, because we've been friends for a while and we've been in similar spaces for a while. And you spoke at Business Boutique back in the day, my very last Business Boutique before I left Ramsey, which I didn't know at the time. My years-long dream of having the Power Twins, you and Bianca, on the same event at the same time came true before I left Ramsey. I was so happy. But I have so many memories of you. But I want to tell you my first one. And I don't know you'll remember this event, but I don't know if you'll remember the significance of it. So you were speaking at Business Boutique for the first time. Mm-hmm. This had to be like maybe 2016, maybe 2017. So it was a long time ago. And you spoke on stage to this giant room of 3,000 people in a floor-length gown. And I thought that was the most boss move I have ever seen in my life. I was like, I love her. If she can do that, I can do anything. Why am I feeling sad?
Hold on, Christy. We got to like be a little bit even more clear. It was like a waterfall full-length dress. So in the front end, in the front end, it was like shorter than the back end. But we were talking about 2017. So people are going to forgive me for my fashion transgressions. But I was committed, girl. I was committed to walking on that stage. Like, we're just going to twirl on the stage because Jesus is going to be fabulous. So yes.
You did. And you came out there and gave the most boss business advice in a ball gown, in a prom dress. It was so amazing.
I literally corsage, Christy. I was just, thank you for this honor. Here's your corsage. Let's take me to prom.
I literally, there's been a couple times where, like, you know how with fashion, which is not even what we're talking about today, but let's just camp here for a second. You know how sometimes you'll put something on, you're like, you want to be brave with it. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I don't know if I can pull this off, but you know, you can, because it's you and you can do whatever you want to, but you're like, I don't know. You've got that a little bit of check. I'm like, Jasmine's spoken a you can just decide that you're going to do stuff. And you are such a model of that. We prayed before we started recording. And that's actually what we are talking about today, which is bravery and boldness and pushing past your fear and being courageous, which is a funny lead in with the outfit choice. But I think that you are such a model of just deciding that you're going to do something. Like, you just decide you're going to do something, but you don't stop there. You don't just lead by example with your content on social media or, whatever. You teach other people to do that. And so when I think of you and I think of what you've taught and lived over the last, decade of me knowing you, this is such a theme for you of courage and resilience and showing up and dusting yourself off and trying again. If anyone goes to your Instagram page and scrolls through, you will find that theme again and again and again. And that's really what I want to talk about today, because like we talked before we started recording, this is really hard in business because you get your feelings hurt. We all feel insecure. I don't know. Am I allowed to price this product that way? Am I allowed to do that on social media? Mm-hmm. And I just love how you teach people courage and you live it. Why do you think this is such a theme for you? I want to just hear like some of your heart behind it, because this comes out of you without you even trying. It's such a part of who you are.
I wish, Christy, I could say that it was this like concerted effort and cognizant decision. It's quite honestly just how I'm hardwired. Okay. I think that every time I began a business and a pivot and a new iteration and adding a revenue stream or ideation, it was always segmented according to who was doing the thing I wanted to do in the industry. And I just do a lot of research and I'm watching and I'm scoping. In other words, I might just say I'm plotting. Like when I decide to do something new in the business, I plot. And throughout the plotting process, the thing that I just basically see from anybody and everybody all the time is how wonderful and how pleasant and how lovely things are. And I began to really question, well, if it's so easy, lovely, and pleasant for them, I must be doing it wrong. Because I don't always experience the easy, lovely, and pleasant. In fact, I experience the hard and the dark and the heavy. So I must be, and no, once you actually start getting in and you start speaking to people, we experience the gamut, the highs and the lows and the peaks and the valleys. But many of us are plagued by the desire and the pressure to really only share the good stuff. And I just thought to myself, I cannot share the good. I cannot. Without actually showing the journey or the struggle, because I think that I'm hardwired for fairness. So I'm the eldest of a family of 5 children.
I didn't realize that.
Yes.
There's more of you. I just know you and more.
I know. Bless our hearts. Could you just imagine our dinner table at Thanksgiving? Like volume say a prayer level. For that. Yeah.
That's right.
Volume level, the speed at which we talk, and people come over and they're like, why is everybody yelling? And I'm like, this is just how we talk. Absolutely. We're deeply bonding. And what I think came on the back of that is through a lot of work. And I loved working with a business coach. I love working with a therapist. And what I've discovered is that fairness is very high on my personal radar. It's very high as I weight things. And I realized that because growing up, maybe things weren't as fair. We grew up very poor, and being the eldest, you accepted a lot of responsibility and you sat front row for the greatest amount of struggle during our family iteration. And so for me, fairness is very high. And so instead of saying, okay, I'm stepping in and making a courageous decision, which I am when I share the good, the bad, and the ugly, or instead of saying I'm making a brave decision, which I am, what I'm actually saying is if my true north is fairness, then I must be fair to the journey. I must be fair to the people who are watching. I must be fair to the people who desire to want the same thing. And let me show you, be careful what you wish for, because God will make it happen. Then you say, why are you doing this to me? And the response is, this is what you asked for. So the more educated we become at the cost of playing this game, I think we're all better off because of it.
Do you know your Enneagram number, or do you hate the Enneagram? Do you know?
Oh, I love the Enneagram. What do you think?
Okay, what are you?
What do you think I am?
8.
No, a lot of people think I'm 8. I'm a 3, wing 4.
Well, justice is very big for 8s. I'm an 8, and justice, which is fairness, it's saying that in another way. It's like I want things to be just and right, and the injustice like really gets to me, and so that's where I was thinking that. But 3 is very similar. Yeah. Very. What is Bianca?
She's a 7.
Yeah.
Like the girl just wants fun. She wants fun all the time. And so for people who don't know, I have a twin sister. We're fraternal, but we look very much the same. And we could not be more opposite. Whereas my sister is driven by how much fun can I have, building a church? How much fun can I have building a team? And the 3 is hardwired to how much can I achieve? And so it's like for her, she's like, oh, I just don't want to do it if it's not fun. And I'm like, why must one have fun? Like we want to win. We could not be any more different.
This is a race.
That's right.
For people that don't know the backstory, Jasmine and Bianca are twins, and I know both of them separately. I knew them separately in their separate spaces. So Bianca's a pastor, Bible teacher. Jasmine, obviously expert in the social media space. I really knew you in the social media space back in the day more than anything else. And so I knew you both. I didn't know you were twins at first. And like years.
A lot of people think that I have an alter ego. They're like, how does this girl preach on Sunday and then teach in the middle of the week? And because there's 2 of us. That's what's going on.
Y'all have so much potential with that to just mess with people. But I was so amazed once I found out that y'all were twins that I could know you both and not know you were twins because you were so successful in such separate spaces with the ultimate comparison platform of having a twin. Like there's no greater context for like comparison. And you both just shine in your spaces. And so I'd had this dream of you all speaking at Business Boutique at the same time and talking about that because comparison is a big piece of can get in the way of business of, oh, well, she's doing it this way. He's doing it that way and so on. And so we did that. That dream came true. That's what I was referencing a minute ago, that you guys both spoke at that event, and Bianca, taught a faith-based message and you taught social media. And it was just really cool to interview both of you. Also, y'all said the same thing at the same time and high-fived each other multiple times. Like you're literally like, it was just really cool to see.
We are literally carbon copies of each other. We finish each other's sentences and then we can communicate without using words, which people find devastatingly eerie. And I'm like, okay, before we walked on the stage, I was like, we have to be normal.
Yeah.
People use words and communicate. Be cool. We weren't, but it's okay. Because everybody was just like, we're just going to love these two weird twins. And then it was a win-win for everybody.
It was my dream come true. But it's the reason I thought that was so fascinating is because you both are so secure in what you do, what you're called to do. And so anyway, that's why I was asking about that with the Enneagram. So it's like justice, fairness, and all that. Okay. So what do you think is different between the people that they get knocked down and they get back up and they dust themselves off and they keep going, they try again and again and again. And the people that don't, Jasmine, there are people that they give up on their business because one thing wasn't easy or it didn't go well, or they had a heartbreak. Maybe it was a really hard thing. I'll give you a really extreme example. Okay. So COVID, a lot of businesses shut down. Fast forward 2021, 2022, I would be teaching business and so on through business, but you got also answered calls on the Dave Ramsey show with Dave or the other personalities. And I remember we would get calls, and I remember one specifically on the Dave Ramsey show where the person said, yeah, I used to have a yoga studio, but we had to shut down because of COVID. And so now I'm not sure if I should be an accountant or if I should like work in retail. And I'm like, why don't you open the yoga studio back up? And it didn't occur to them that they could try again because their heart was broken. Now, COVID's a really extreme example and people really did have to shut down businesses during that time. But I think it highlights a bigger thing where when our heart is broken, sometimes we don't see clearly. Sometimes we just want to give up, pack up and go home. We don't consider we could do that thing again. We could try again and again and again. We have all the quotes in the world from Michael Jordan missing 3,000, losing 3,000 games to Babe Ruth was the home run king. He was also the strikeout king. He was both. So what do you think is the difference between those people that take those failures and just go, all right, I'm going to try again. And those people that go, no, I'm going to give up and go home.
Luxury, fortitude, the pain of not pursuing what it is you want to do must be greater than the pain of going to what is predictable. So when somebody says, I could be an accountant or I can do X, Y, and Z, that means that the pain from not opening the yoga studio was strong enough to convince you otherwise. The pain of me not being able to build a business would far supersede the pain of having to go and get a 9-to-5. Like the 9-to-5 would hurt me so much more than the pain I'm going through in building my business. And so we, as being gluttons for the journey and being gluttons for the peaks and the valleys, like we look at not doing this as more painful than doing this, even though what we're going through is extraordinarily painful. And so I look at other people with such, I celebrate the luxury of them being able to say, well, opening a studio is the same as being an accountant. That's a luxury. That is a privilege. Amazing. I would be the worst employee for somebody else because I deeply know I've been called to build, and not being a builder would put me in an immense amount of pain.
Yeah. That's so good. It's also it also highlights how aware you are of yourself. Like as you talk about yourself, you're very aware of your desires and how you're wired and how you're called. And I think some people Jasmine, they just follow the predictable path. I think even just the self-reflection to go, what am I wired to do? What am I good at? What do I want to do? Even that takes courage to ask those questions and dig deep and say, what do I want to do? And I just love how comfortable you are in your own skin about what you want and what you don't want. And I love that. Flip side of that, my husband watches me run my business and he's like, I would never want that. I would never. No, thank you. I would never want that. And so we are wired differently, but I love how just aware you are of what you want. And I think one of the things that you and I have in common is we see people living in maybe less than their dreams or following the predictable path, but they have that fire in them. They have an idea in them. They have a dream in their heart. They have something they want to do. They're just scared to do it. And you and I are just that bossy big sister to come along and push them out of the nest and go, do the thing. You can do the thing. And so I just love that. We want to rescue people from the wrong path if it's not for them.
And I want to be like, I want to add a caveat here because a lot of times people would hear this and say, okay, well, that's just not me. That's too risky. It's too this or it's too that. And To that, I say, fine, I totally agree. I am not asking or calling or even inviting you to a risk that seems unsubstantiated or unsustainable. Not at all. And I don't think that Christy is either. What I will say is you can absolutely keep and do the safe and predictable while also pursuing the thing, the vision, the idea that has been put on your heart. However, it comes at a cost. Because the time that you spend, you have your 9 to 5, and then you have your 5 to 9. Many people decide to fill their 5 to 9 with softball, with reality television, with movie watching, with happy hour with the girls. All of that is totally fine and totally applaudable. You do you. However, you cannot say, you forfeit the right to say, there's things that I want, but I actually won't sacrifice anything in my life to get there. And so I think that if you're feeling this tenuous balance of being responsible and showing up for your family and needing to pay the rent, yes, please. There is also time and sacrifices that we can make on the outside. Will we get outsized results? Will we get the results as fast as we want? Will we get them as predictable as we want? No, probably not. However, any work is better than no work at all. And I think that is the invitation, the encouragement, and also the challenge to people who are listening. You absolutely can do it. How much are you willing to sacrifice beyond what is keeping you safe and a roof over your head?
Okay. I love this because this is one of those things that there are people listening right now and they're like, oh yeah, I know what my thing is. And I've been dabbling in it a little on the side, but I don't really treat it seriously. So I don't get serious results. And I love just even the practical side of your 5 to 9 of what you do at that time. You put something on Instagram recently. You said, instead of saying, I can't do that, say it's not a priority and see how that feels. I was like, yeah, girl, that's right. Take responsibility for how you spend your time. Okay. I'm curious for you, Jasmine, what kind of stuff scares you? Or what kind of stuff intimidates you? Do you get insecure? Do you ever feel like, okay, I've got to get myself up for this, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I think that what scares me is being able, and I know I've done a lot of work around this. I've done a lot of work around this, but I think that it's a fear of not being able to provide for the team. And I understand, I've done a lot of work to separate the work that is rendered by a team member and understand that their work is independent of me. And then I also know it's this awkward, tenuous octopus, multiple arms of just well, yes, but the business is about Jasmine Star and Social Curator and the other business endeavors that we're doing. And I think that as a major driver in that, I feel deeply responsible for having deal flow, for having revenue, for watching that, for watching what the runway is and predictability. And I think in the back of my mind, I feel so deeply beholden to such talented people who work on the team that a fear for me would be what if it goes bust? What if this thing turns upside down? I would feel so deeply responsible for people's families and themselves. And I think that when you dwell in that place, it'll keep you truncated. And so I've kind of just reverse engineered. I'm okay, what if this is what we all need for now? I can't control the future. I have no idea. None of us ever saw 2020 coming. Isn't it ironic? 2020 vision is perfect. And in 2020, we couldn't see 3 feet in front of us. And so all of a sudden it's to dwell in the land of infinite possibilities is to drive yourself anxious and crazy. And so what I remind myself today is today I am well taken care of. And today this team is pursuing their excellence. And tomorrow is not in my hands, but I'm going to act, behave, and I'm going to take action as if it is, and then trusting that it is not. And so I think deeply for me has always been money, responsibility, funding. How are we providing? And I think that I'm just so beholden to the team that I want to honor them.
Yeah, it's a totally different ballgame because I know we have a lot of people listening that are solopreneurs and they run a one-man show, a one-woman show. And when you start hiring a team, it's a totally different ballgame. When I left Ramsey, I started my business and it was just me because we are living on savings. We are starting over all of that. But when I started hiring a team, middle of last year, beginning of last year, it's a totally different ballgame when you have payroll and you have real expenses and you've got to hit this number, whether the business months are high or low. So let's actually talk about this. Can we talk about not just the financial side, but specifically the emotional side of the roller coaster of entrepreneurship? Girl, it's a roller coaster. On the high days, I'm I am brilliant. I am brilliant. This is the greatest idea I've ever had, maybe in the whole world. And I am on this high. And the lows are I'm so stupid. I don't even know why I'm doing this. I should go get a 9 to 5. The highs are so real. The lows are so real. And it's this emotional roller coaster of entrepreneurship. And if you're not careful, man, you can get thrown off or make some bad decisions. How do you ride the roller coaster and stay somewhat sane when I know you have high highs and I know you have low lows and you're not jumping off in the middle of it?
So I once heard a definition slightly different. And so I used to say I do a lot of work around my mental health. And I like it, but I also feel like there's like a bit of a stigma around it, even though we're all talking about it. These are things that we should absolutely be talking about. Our mental health should be all things that we have conversations about, specifically as a business owner, because you're going out and you're making a big bet on yourself. And psychologically, it weighs a lot, specifically if you're a provider or a contributor to your family. And so what I like to say now is I'm working on my mental fitness. And and I feel like I could say that to you because you have gone through ups and downs and a fitness journey. And then when you decide I'm going to train for a marathon or I'm going to get back into running and do it seriously, then you do a little bit seriously every single day. You're not doing a full-on marathon 7 days a week, but you're doing a little bit every day in preparation of something big. And I believe that mental fitness is what I have to remind myself as a calibration, because it doesn't change the highs and it doesn't change the lows. But mental fitness is a recalibration of reminding, for me, a set of series and mantras that I remind myself it will be better than I think. If not this, then the next thing. What's next is better. I would not have been brought this far to only come this far. God has never let me down, and it's not going to begin today. I can deal with public embarrassment because I've made it through that before. I can deal with shame in a public setting because I've gone through that before. That every time that I was on the precipice of change and I didn't know the next step to take, the next step was revealed to me, and the next step was better than I'd imagined. And the thing that I know to be true again and again is it will take longer than I hope. And it will look different than I had expected, but it will be better than I have ever dreamt. And that is the mental fitness of just remind myself. So the average human thinks around 60,000 thoughts a day, and 80% of them are negative. And here's another thing. These are all stats pulled from Dr. Joe Dispenza. We think 90% of the same thoughts we thought the day before. So we thought 60,000 thoughts yesterday, and 80% of them were negative. We're going to repeat 90% of those negative thoughts today. And so I think to myself, I got to refill my tank. My fitness is to refill it with thoughts that I know to be true. This is not like I'm thinking warm and fuzzy. This is not positive thinking. It is not that. It is stating the truth. I have always been taken care of. There is a divine call and plan for my life, that even on the days of the dumps, that I'm supposed to go through this in order to get what it is that I want. And I'm telling you, saying those things are very hard on a lot of days. But I have to repeat the things that I know to be true, and that anchors me. And so the time that I spend in the peak and the time that I spend in the valley is the same amount of time. May we rejoice in the success, and may we not dwell in the failures, because both of those things are coming. And so the time that we spend, we say yes and amen. And the time in the dumps, we say yes and amen. But can we hurry it up, please?
Can we fast forward this part, Lord? Okay, so I'm curious about these things that you repeat to yourself. Is it something organic where it's just become muscle memory because you think them, you remind yourself more regularly to tell yourself, or do you actually have a real list somewhere in your house? Like how does this get integrated? Is it more organic and just natural, or do you actually write it down and put it places?
Currently it's organic, but it began as a practice. And so right now I could just rattle off 10 things that I could say to myself again and again. That it started off with just one thing. Okay. I started off with one thing, is that like everything is happening for me. Yeah. Everything is happening for me. Yep. And then I would add a few things. I would write down a few things. And now it's very much like, I don't know if you ever went to Vacation Bible School, like there's songs that you can sing, having not heard them in 20 years. That's right. And then all of a sudden they come to you. And it's like, I'll never forget, like there was like an acronym for Bible, basic instructions before leaving Earth. Why does that stick with me? Why does that stick with me? Because you repeat it.
That's what we're here for today.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think to myself often is like what we repeat to ourselves is the things that we remember, and we remember them in times that we need them the most. And so however, if you are the type of person who does better when you write them down, put them on a Post-it note, put them in surprise reminders, put them in your pantry, hide it in the box of cereal. So you open it, you're like, what's this? And you're like, oh, I remember this. Like surprise and delight yourself with the truths that you have over your life.
I love that. And almost everyone listening right now, or at least most people, are believers. And so you have the word of God that has declared what is truth. And so even if you're not feeling it on your own or thinking on your own, you can go to God's word and go, what does God say about this? So often when I feel like these thoughts that are either negative, or it's that I'm being attacked by the enemy, or it's just that, that inner critic, I will stop those thoughts and go, this is not what God says. This is not what God says. God does not say I'm stupid. I know how God talks to me, and it's not like this. And so it just gives you this basic instructions. It gives you what the truth is in case you don't know how to put words to it yourself. But it's the exact same for me, Jasmine, where it's very organic. And over time, I say certain things to myself. But what's so powerful about this is you're telling yourself what is true, and you're replacing those 90% of 60,000 thoughts that are negative. And I think so often we feel a victim to our thoughts. And if we don't stop them, catch them, correct them, replace them, then we believe them and we follow them and we act out of them. So much of what I do as a business coach, and I know you do this as well, is just questioning people's assumptions. They say, well, I can't do that. And I'm like, why? Well, who says why? We have all these things we believe and limitations and labels that we live under, and they're just not true. So I love how you are telling yourself what is true. I've made it this far. A lot of your statements I noticed too, we're looking backwards. I've survived that before. I've done that before. I've been provided for before. And so we can gain so much confidence by looking backward, but often we don't. It's similar to the Israelites in the wilderness. God rescued them from Egypt, provided manna by night, a cloud by day, a fire by night. And they're like, oh, God, he's just going to abandon us again. You're like, hello, look at what he's done. He's not going to fail you now. And the same is true in your life. It's the same true in my life. You've always been provided for. You will be provided for. The thing that I like tactically, a tactical example, if I'm going to go on stage to speak and I'm nervous because it's a new audience or it's an especially large audience, or maybe it's a new talk, I'm just not as like feeling as confident as I normally am. I remind myself, God put me here. And if God put me here, it's because God wants to use me. So let me just get out of the way and let God do what he does. Like I can stand in complete confidence because again, what is true? God put me there. I didn't muscle my way there. I didn't elbow my way there. God put me there. So I can just rest that I'm going to do great. Because if God put me there, he has a purpose for that. And so I just love how you look backwards on the faithfulness and the track record of God, but in just the fruit in your own life to go, I've survived this before. I've thought the same thing with a speaking event where I totally bombed. And I'm like, oh, I've survived that before, so I can do it again. You know, I've been embarrassed before. I can do it again.
Absolutely. And one thing too is I think I might have mentioned to you, but I'm a law school dropout. And so you look, oh girl, I dropped out of law school. But yes, so they train your brain. They essentially, when you actually think of the words brainwash, they're washing your brain of how it used to think. And you are reprogramming your brain. And that's what they do in law school. They brainwash you to think in a new way. And so you think in terms of evidence. Because we can sit here and say that's her perspective or his perspective, but what is evidence? And I think that I use the past as evidence to talk to my very highly logical intellectual brain where, you know, people like my sister, they feel things. And I'm like, emotion changes. I don't care about my emotion because my emotion is as fickle as the wind, but past evidence doesn't change. Facts don't change. And even if I was upset with God, let down with God, happy with God, thankful with God, I have to go back and say the evidence and the fact has always been this. Can you not point to the past when God has blown your mind on the back of being wildly disappointed? Because if the answer is yes, that's a fact, then God can do it again.
That's right.
And he will.
That's so good. Oh, it's so good. Evidence. I love that about training your brain for evidence.
And so now and you're going to start seeing it, Christy. You're going to start seeing it in so many aspects of motherhood, in being being married, being a daughter, being a friend. You start looking at evidence of things that you have gone through with that person or that thing. And it just makes you that much more confident that whatever you're going through right now, you're going to get through it and you're going to be better on the back end of it.
That's so good. I love how you tell yourself what is true. You also, you said you repeat these to yourself regularly. One of the things that I do that's really helped me, and I've done this more intentionally in the last 2 years, is I've replaced time, and I'm getting real practical with some of these applications for you guys, but time that I would normally listen to music, because I love music, get me pumped up. I listen to like 90s rap to do the dishes because I am not feeling it at night. I need something to get me excited, like Destiny Child. So I love music, but there's a lot of times that I could be listening to something else. And so I've started replacing music time, which would be when I'm putting makeup on in the morning, when I'm in the car, when I'm on a run, those types of things, with audiobooks. And so it was amazing, the transformation in me, not just because I'm consuming more content, but when I would normally be either mindlessly thinking about random things I need to do that day, or maybe even those thoughts are starting to follow their same pattern from yesterday of 90% of like, oh, I'm worried about this, or I don't know if this is going to work. You go into those patterns. It's just flushing my mind with possibility. They're business books and big thinking and new ideas. And so I'm expanding even my perspective, but it's replacing some of those 60,000 thoughts and saying, I'm not going to just follow the wind of these thoughts. I'm going to tell myself what to focus on and think about. And we all have the power to do that. We all have access to podcasts like this one, to yours, like audiobooks or anything that just increases your thinking. You're training your brain. You're training your brain exactly like you're saying. Okay. I want to ask you about one specific culprit of fear, insecurity, just discouragement overall. And that is comparison. We talked about that a second ago, even with you and Bianca. And I talked about that with y'all being twins and being in different spaces. But a lot of your business is on social media. And social media is just so connected to comparison. Well, people, they don't show up to social media either to consume or to post and think to myself, man, I really want to compare myself with everyone on here. And then when they're doing it, they're not even thinking, man, this is so fun, I should do more of this. But it just naturally happens. It's subconscious. It's small little voices that'll get in there and go like, well, she's way better than you. And she's in the exact same industry. So, so how do you avoid the comparison trap when so much of your business is on social media and you teach it? So I know this is something that you help people with.
So we always are making a choice. Even when you say you're not making a choice, you're absolutely making a choice. You are absolutely making the choice to drink poison or to drink something else. But you are going to make a decision to drink. And so when we look at social media, if you know that it is putting you in a very bad spot, you can absolutely put up parameters that prevent you from that. If you believe and you know that marketing in a variety of ways, but specifically here on social media is what you're going to pursue, you can actually go in and deposit on social media and you can engage just on your account and you can respond to just your DMs and you can get off. You can't compare to what you do not see. However, when you make the choice to doom scroll, when you make the choice to fill your feed with people who do not serve you well, when you're like, well, I should be following that person. Everybody follows that person. That person's a leader, so I should. But if that person is not putting you in a good headspace, you're choosing to drink the poison.
That's good.
You can not follow. You can just deposit on social media. You can also mute people. If you're like, I can't unfollow them. No worries.
I've done that, yeah.
Mute the account. And it's nothing against that other person. Do you know that oftentimes that comparison, when we look at something else or we desire something else, and the difference between envy and jealousy is envy is wanting what it is they have and jealousy is wishing that they don't have it, both of which coexist as you are doom scrolling on Instagram, is when you do that, you then put yourself in a place where you're giving your power away. You're giving it away to a person who likely doesn't know you exist. And then you say, I feel so bad. Baby, you gave it away. If you decide I'm not going to give it away and you decide by doing what I just said, you will deposit only, you will not follow, or you will unmute. That is how you retain it. That is how you use it. Now, over time, you realize that comparison has nothing to do with anybody but you. Comparison is a you job. And so I used to think that envy was a bad thing. And then I would just like sit here and be like, oh, this is not a divine thing. And now I look at envy as a great thing, conditionally. Because if I envy something that Christy has, I used to say, well, why don't I have it? I never struggled with jealousy. I never looked at somebody and says, well, I hope you don't have it. I never did. But envy, and I was trained from a child that envious, don't be envious. But envy for me now is if I celebrate the thing I want and I applaud the person who has it, I believe it opens my eyes to what is possible for me. So whatever Christy has that I'm finding envious of, I don't say, oh, that's a negative thing. Don't think it. I think, good for you, Christy. I'm going to clap you up, girl. I'm going to clap you up. You're a way maker. You are an expander. You showed me what's possible. Good for you. Good for you. Good for you. And when I get there, good for us.
That's right.
And that has been a big shift in how I look and in comparison and compare, because it's something we do as humans. But now, can we celebrate it? Can we be in control of it? And if we can't, that's okay. Put up some guardrails for our mental fitness to ensure that we can build up to that point where we look at other people, the things they have, the things they've done, and who they are, and celebrate them in their totality.
Well, and I think one of the things that's essential for you to be able to think like this, and it's natural for you, it's definitely natural for me, is you have to have an abundance mindset. Because it's really hard to champion someone else when you think they're the only one that can get that thing. They're the only one that can achieve the bestseller list for their book, or build their business to 7 figures or 8 figures or whatever. But if you have an abundance mindset, And you realize that the scarcity mindset is absolutely not only not serving you, but it's not reality. And if you're a believer, we serve an infinite God with infinite resources, then it makes it so much easier to cheer other people on, whether you're where they are or not, because you can be happy for them and be happy for you for where you're going because you have an abundance mindset. So I think that's so important as well, because sometimes people think it's either or. It's not either or. It's not, there's room for you too. There's room for you and your business, your marketing business, your accounting business, your yoga studio. There's room for you too, because no one can do what you can do like you can do it. And so I think it's just such a good reminder that you use that to fuel you and celebrate that. And even maybe someone has something that you want and you didn't know you wanted it. So you saw that they had it and you're like, I actually would like that for my life as well. And then now you're aware of a new desire you have. That's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful thing, something you can chase or pursue or whatever. Okay. While we're on this topic of social media, can we talk about the haters and how we handle that? I know you get this question all the time. I get it all the time, but I'm really curious for you, Jasmine, because you've taught this for years. For the people that are just, and there's kind of different categories, right? Like there's some people that have constructive criticism. There's some people that are just hateful. There's some people that are there just to stew up problems. How do you handle that? How do you deal with that?
Well, I look at it through a framework. If this person actually has a real account that's associated with their name and their face, and you go over to their profile and they're real people, not somebody who is just like a sniper, the person who has no identity, comes out, like shoots you up from some rooftop that you cannot see. If it is really that toxic and they're not identifiable, I immediately delete it. It doesn't need to be there. It is my spot on the internet, and I don't need to foster what this is. Now, if somebody actually has a differing opinion, I welcome it. I don't expect any of us to see the world exactly the same way. Now, if they have a different opinion and they put forward their logical explanation, sometimes I'll ask, "Oh, why do you feel that way?" Or I don't agree, but I'm happy that we don't agree. Now, there's other people who are just going in to spew negativity, and in that regard too, I just delete it. I just don't have, someone's just like if somebody has beef with me, like, please know it's one-sided. I'm just too tired and I am too blessed to be that stressed to think that anybody, if you have a beef, that you have a beef with me, I don't have a beef with you. And so continue to do what it is you do. Continue to stew in the way that you stew. If you want to have a constructive conversation, we could do it here. And then at the end of the day, it's still my account. I'll just simply delete. If it's not lifting up and it's not positive, it just doesn't belong here.
I love that. I love the permission you give people to do that, because I've said that for years. I'm like, if someone is coming over to my page to just be hateful and just spew negativity, I'm like, it's my page. Would you let someone come in your yard and just dump trash in your yard? No, it's your yard. Get out of here. And so,
but at the same way, can I spill some tea? Can I spill some tea? Because it's like, just in case we don't know, if I had a party and I invited everyone, my party's popping, and Christy walks in the front door and goes inside my party. And then she turns on the music and says, "You guys, I'm having a party across the street. Come over to the party across the street." We think that's tacky. And yet on social media, people do that. So I, as an example, put out a post around an offer, and somebody says, "I have," and I'm telling you, it's an identical offer. Okay. The only difference about the offer is like who's administering it. Me versus the other person. I have this, list the dates, list the cut, like the whole thing. And I thought to myself, Jasmine, are you being small? Are you being petty? But like, I genuinely had such an aversion. You don't go to somebody else's party and then you try to get them over to your party. And so I just said, I'm just going to apply a human perspective on, like, so sometimes social media makes it feel like, is this okay? Is this weird? And I just decided I am just too blessed to be this stressed. I think that this is really tacky, and I deleted it. And guess what? Slept well that night. It's just like,
it's your page.
And we have to treat people the way that we would in real life. If you would not go to somebody else's party, if somebody had a garage sale, you wouldn't take everything from your garage and put it on their lawn and say, "We're all here," right? Like, you just wouldn't do that. And so I think that applying the same methodology, it's like, are you being human? Because if not, you'll be deleted.
Yeah, that's so good. I love the permission there. And I also love just the practical application of like, yeah, you wouldn't do this in real life. So that of course you wouldn't do that. The other thing I remind people, and I'm sure you've experienced this as your Instagram following has grown, the thing I remind people just to get some of the feelings out of it, because some people just get their feelings so hurt.
Right.
I'm like, this is a game of numbers. There will always be about 2 to 5% of people that just don't like you. They don't. You're not for them. It's okay. It's not a reflection of you. But there's probably going to be 2 to 5% of people that come to your page that don't like you. So if you have 100,000 followers, 2 to 5% of that are going to maybe make hateful things, whatever. If you have 1 million followers, it's a much higher number. because it's just a game of math. So as your following grows, just know your critics will also grow, because there's always just going to be a couple negative people that just want to spew their negativity. It's not a reflection of you that you're doing something wrong. You've just always got a couple of people that want to spread hate wherever they go.
Gary Vaynerchuk coined this term, the TikTokification of social media, which meant that when Twitter hit the scene, it had an algorithm and it was showing you posts that from the people that you followed. And then Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, they all rolled out. You saw primarily content from the people that you followed. So your social media worked a lot like a newsletter subscriber list. And a certain percentage of the people who open your newsletters are the same percentage of people who would actually see your content organically. Well, TikTok came along and they said, bump the old algorithm. It doesn't matter who's following you. Chances are they're not even going to see your content anyway. We're going to serve up your content to a bunch of strangers who are more likely to engage with that type of content. So when Christy is sitting here talking about that 2 to 5%, like, please know it's probably more, because your followers, the people who are most likely to give it like a thumbs up and a heart and blah, 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 because they know you, they like you, they trust you, but they don't engage with content that is similar like that on the platform, may not see it. So let's just say you have followers and they know you from PTA, they know you from church, they know you from the soccer club, and they're just like, okay, I'm going to follow this person. But what they really follow are a bunch of like at-home chefs. They're going to see more content from strangers, from at-home chefs, than your content, even though they follow you. Why? Because their predictive behavior, the social media machines that are very intoxicating and addicting, are going to give you more of what you want to see. So how then are you going to have your content seen? Well, you're going to be showing it to people who are most inclined to like it or watch it, which means it's going to be showing to strangers. And chances are strangers have opinions about you. And if they decide to leave a mean comment and not follow you, guess what? Block, delete, move on.
That's right. Yeah. And I'm sure you guys, if any of you have experienced this with your post, I certainly have, Jasmine, where I'll have some posts that just naturally have more negative comments. And if I go in and look at my analytics, it has been shown to 75% non-followers versus 25% followers. You will always see more, you will see more negativity on those. But then on the post where it's like, it shows it to 75% of your followers versus 25% non-followers, it's going to be maybe a lower number, because those people know you, they like you, they trust you, and so on. So yeah, it's not always a reflection of you or how great your content was. It's who it's being showed to.
Absolutely.
So that's super helpful. Okay. So one of the things that I love about you, Jasmine, is you're so confident and you're bold and you're courageous. We've been talking about that today and helping people just build their confidence, get back up when they've been knocked down, telling themselves the truth about what's possible, focusing on the possibility. One of the trends I've noticed is Christians are often so scared of being arrogant that they swing the other way. So it's like a lot of times Christians, they want so bad to be humble. They want so bad to like not offend people that they tend to lean the other way and just play small. I work with a lot of women, and have for years, that are scared to price their products fairly, or you know, what they're worth, what their value. They're scared to put themselves out there in marketing. They're scared to show up on Facebook. They're scared to even the idea of confidence is intimidating to them, because they're just scared they're going to be misperceived as arrogant or a diva or with an ego. Can you help just unpack this of how to live confidently, be bold, have nerve, and know that it's not the same thing as arrogance or attitude or an ego?
Okay. So if it's okay, I would like to go back. I felt like I heard two questions, and I want to address the first part. Okay. And you had said you're confident. You had said I was confident, and I was just like, oh, that's funny, because I've had a conversation about this very idea. And you said confident and bold. And I love that that is how you identify me. I take deep pride in that. But I have to say, for anybody who's watching or listening, I am not a naturally confident person. I am not a naturally bold person. I think that over the years as an entrepreneur, I have put on pieces of an armor to make me show up that way. And when I started my career, armor was serving as protection.
Okay.
Now that I have had street credibility and I can prove that I am, in fact, a bona fide entrepreneur, it is less about protection as much as it is a mechanism of who I am. It's part of this identity. And so, Christy, you know me, and like nobody in real life comes to me, Jasmine Star. They see Jasmine, like my friends, my family, like I'm Jasmine. Yet when I put on the armor, I become a version of myself. I am still me, but I am a version of myself that is wearing armor. And it is the armor of confidence. And it is the armor of boldness. Because for so long, people like me, people who looked like me, people who didn't have what a lot of other people had. You had to play differently. And you were so afraid of getting like chin chucked. You were afraid of getting stabbed in the back. You were afraid of getting a stone to the head, that you would put on this armor as a form of protection. And so I used to think, and I used to feel embarrassed. And I even talked to my husband and business partner about it. I said, well, you know, when I get on these podcasts, it's like people was like, oh, she's so confident. She's so this, she talks so fast. She just knows all the answers. And I'm like, actually, I don't. And I need to show up and have people see that the person who you see is actually under an armor. And for a while, I really grappled with, what does this actually mean? What does it actually mean? And I kept on saying to myself, you're looking at this from a negative perspective. What if you invited other people like you, people who were not hardwired to be confident, not hardwired to be bold, and then say, I can actually make a decision to put on armor and become a version of myself in a public setting in order for me to get where I want to go. And so I just want to be very clear that like I didn't come out of the womb feeling confident. And so many nights I feel a lack of confidence and a lack of boldness. And then yet I have the opportunity to come on a podcast, like, put on my armor. Why? Because it's who I am and it's a person that I want to be. And I'm going to wear what I need to wear in a figurative sense to get to where I want to go.
So, well, I want to say one thing about that, because I love this example. I had a man tell me, you know, I've spoken for years on confidence and fear and all that. One of the things I tell people is fake it until you feel it. Fake confidence until you feel confident. Sometimes we think, oh, I have to feel a certain way to act a certain way. You can act the way you want to feel confident and the feelings will follow. And this man emailed in and he said, I tried what you said. I went to this networking event. I'm an introvert. I was really nervous. Normally I would hole up in the corner, you know, kind of stay to myself and be really scared. He goes, but I walked in and just acted confident. I acted like the person I wanted to be. And he goes, within minutes, I felt it. It felt like an authentic part of who I am. So I love, even in your visual there, thank you for sharing that, of like what started as armor of maybe pulling yourself up for this to show up in a certain way has become authentic to you. But I think that that's available to anybody. Yeah. That's available to anybody that doesn't feel naturally confident, that you can act the way you want to feel. And over time that becomes muscle memory. It becomes grooves in your brain. It becomes your natural default. And again, it doesn't mean you think you're better than anybody else. And it doesn't mean you're sure 100% you're going to do it, but you're willing to show up and you're willing to try. And so I thank you for that example. I just wanted to share that about that man that emailed in, because I think that's a great example that's available to all of us.
And then going back to like the main question. So if we can keep the main thing is how is it not perceived as arrogance or being conceited and like not, you know, hiding your light under a basket. And I think I just take a very pragmatic look at it. It's like somebody's always going to think that you're too much. Somebody's always going to think that you're arrogant. Somebody's always going to think that you're conceited. And there's going to be a group of people who always think that you're humble, that you're always giving, and you're extraordinarily benevolent. It's like people have an opinion about you when they know nothing about you. So it's like people want to have 100% opinion about the 0.001% of that they see about you online. And so then if you decide to sit on the couch or just decide to go on a 10-mile run, if you decide to drink a green juice or eat a pizza, if you decide to homeschool your kid or send them to public school, they're going to have an opinion. And so if they're going to have an opinion anyway, be you. And when they say you're conceited, because it's not if, it's a when they say you're conceited and you do a deep inventory and say, I'm actually not, let the words roll off your back. The reason why the words hurt is because there may be a kernel of truth in what a drive-by comment had done to reveal about our innermost workings. But if there is not a kernel there, you just let it doesn't hurt you. The reason why people's comments hurts is because you have a belief about that. You have a belief that you were in fact being conceited. But if you were just stating a fact, you won an award, you had your biggest year ever, you took your family out on vacation, you bought a new car. If that's a fact, how can you be conceited? You're a freaking historian. Be a historian. State the facts. Have other people apply their own interpretations, not you.
Yeah. It's so good. I've also found sometimes, not always, but sometimes someone else's judgment of you in that way is more a reflection of their insecurity.
Of course.
Your arrogance.
Absolutely.
It's their own. They're seeing themselves through that lens, and that's what's playing out. So I love that reminder. This is such an important conversation for people, Jasmine, because the reality is we're going to be on this roller coaster in business. There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, there's going to be days where we feel great. There's days where it's really tough. And the truth is, confidence looks different for everyone. Confidence, showing up confidently, doesn't have to look like you or I. It doesn't have to look like fast talking. It doesn't have to look like full makeup. It doesn't have to look like that. It can look like a quiet, calm presence and being really comfortable in your own skin. One of the things I've started doing, you'll appreciate this, I think, because of the social media setup, but since leaving Ramsey and having to do everything myself and having a small team and trying to rebuild everything, I've had to get honest about, okay, what can I put money into my business and what can I just do myself? And like social media, I'm going to show up, but we don't know which version of me we're going to get. Sometimes you get makeup, Christy. Sometimes you get glasses and greasy hair, Christy, because that's what I've got that day.
That's right.
But I think even that takes confidence to show up not in makeup. It's like, are they still going to like me? Am I still okay? It's like, this is what I got. And so confidence doesn't have to look big and flashy and bright lights. It can look like you, just like you said, you showing up as you. That's the most beautiful form of confidence, is you showing up as you, whether that is loud and big hair or quiet and calm presence. You showing up at you as you is the most powerful way to show up confidently. I love that.
Absolutely.
You even have an audio series that helps people with imposter syndrome. And I think one of the things that's so great in talking about imposter syndrome is it just normalizes this. Because if we don't talk about this stuff, if we don't talk about fear and confidence and getting back up, then like you said, people are scrolling their Instagram page thinking, well, everybody else is winning but me. Everybody else has this figured out but me. I'm the only one struggling with insecurity. And when we talk about things like this and imposter syndrome, how common it is, you just feel less alone. It doesn't change your situation, but you're going, oh, this is normal. All right, well, I'll get up and keep going anyway. So tell us about your audio series about how to overcome imposter syndrome and where people can get it.
Thank you so much, Christy. You know, here's the thing. I got tired of telling myself a false narrative. And the false narrative was like, I'm going through this alone. So I decided to interview over 50 seven-figure entrepreneurs around what imposter syndrome means for them. And does it show up? And like newsflash, it absolutely shows up. Imposter syndrome shows up in our journey as 5-figure entrepreneurs, right? When we're just getting started, 6-figure, 7-figure, it shows up in 8-figure. But imposter syndrome shows up differently for us at different stages. So what would it look like for us to know? How do we spot the enemy? How do we overcome the enemy? Well, we got to know what the enemy looks like. And so created a free 3-part series, jasminestar.com/imposter, jasminestar.com/imposter. And it's just a 3-part series talking about everything I've learned, how to overcome it, the common things that we're looking for, and the common ways for us to actually collectively look at something and say, we're in this together. And I think it was just a labor of love. I just put it together because I was like, what do I wish I had when I was building my business? And then we came up with this and I feel really proud of it.
It's so good. Okay. jasminestar.com/imposter. This is so helpful because one of the things I've noticed in coaching people in all stages of business is that I can give them the practical business advice and they love that and they need it. But what really changes the game is when I help them build their confidence, when I help them overcome their fear or insecurity. That's what changes the game. Because the truth is, Jasmine, as you and I both know, like, if you want to build a business, you can figure it out. But if you don't have the confidence, you won't.
That's right.
You can have all the playbooks in the world and the manuals and the steps, but if you're scared, you're going to stay stuck. So
that's right.
I love that you have that available. Okay. I could talk to you all day. You're so fun, Jasmine. I love learning from you. I love watching how you've built your brand and how you've pivoted and how you've, even becoming a mom and like seeing your story and seeing how you weave that together. And you're so honest about the struggles of motherhood with a business and how you make it work. And when you're taking time off, and you're just such a shining light in all of these spaces and you do it so well. So anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for being my friend. And thanks for teaching us today.
Sweet. I adore you. Thank you, friend.
All right, y'all. That's it for this week's episode of Business Bootcamp. Be sure to subscribe to the Christy Wright podcast channel so you never miss a new show, and share this episode on social media so other people can get the help they need as well. And then tune back in here every other week to get the practical steps you want and the tough love truth you need to succeed in your business. I'm Christy Wright, and I'll see you next time.